Brothers vanished in Colorado, 1 month later found trapped in an abandoned warehouse. Ethan and Lucas Holloway disappeared without warning. No calls, no trace, no abandoned vehicle. For 30 days, search teams looked everywhere they were supposed to look. Mountains, trails, rivers, and found nothing. Then, by accident, a sound came from a place nobody had searched, a sealed warehouse written off years ago. Inside, the brothers were still alive, trapped in silence, surviving where no one thought to look. What kept them hidden wasn't distance or wilderness. It was assumption. Before we go any further, if this is your first time here, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Your support means the world and helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Stick with us until the end, and if this mystery moves you, share your thoughts in the comments and pass it along to a friend. They were known as the Holloway brothers long before they became a headline. Ethan Holloway, 26, had the steady hands of someone who fixed things for a living. Warehouse maintenance, odd jobs, the kind of work that kept grease under his nails no matter how hard he scrubbed. Lucas Holloway, 22, was lighter on his feet, always half planning his next move. Always talking about leaving Colorado for something bigger. Same jawline, different pace. You could tell who was older just by the way they stood. Ethan planted, Lucas leaning. That morning felt normal enough to be forgettable. Cold air slid through the cracks of the neighborhood, carrying the smell of frost and old leaves. Ethan tightened the laces on his boots, tugged once, twice, the way he always did. Lucas checked his phone, frowned at the dead battery icon, then shrugged. Figures, he muttered, stuffing it into his pocket. They weren't going far. Just crossing town, cutting through an industrial stretch nobody cared about anymore. Rusted buildings, shuttered loading docks, warehouses that once hummed and now just existed. Ethan had heard there was scrap metal someone wanted hauled. Quick cash, nothing official, nothing risky. Their neighbor watched them leave from behind a curtain. "You see where they're headed?" she whispered to someone in the kitchen. "Those old warehouses?" came the reply. "Yeah, that area's dead." The brothers' truck was spotted once that day, idling near the edge of the industrial zone. A security camera caught it briefly. Grainy footage, poor angle. Ethan in the driver's seat, Lucas hopping out, waving him forward. After that, nothing. No texts, no calls, no card swipes. The truck wasn't found abandoned. It just stopped appearing. At first, nobody panicked. "Grown men disappear all the time," someone said at the local bar that night, leaning back in his chair. "Probably took off." "Together?" another voice asked. "Why not?" "Brothers do weird stuff." Their mother filed a missing persons report 2 days later. Her hands shook as she filled in dates, heights, clothing descriptions. The officer nodded, typed slowly, asked the standard questions with a tone that suggested patience rather than urgency. "Any history of leaving without telling anyone?" "No," she said quickly. They wouldn't do that. The search began small. A few patrols. A couple of drive-bys near known hangouts. Someone checked the foothills, because Colorado always points people toward the mountains first. Flyers went up, then came down in the rain. Weeks passed. Whispers filled the gaps. "I heard they owed money." "Nah, Lucas talked too much to just vanish." Ethan wouldn't drag his brother into something stupid. The industrial district stayed quiet. Locked gates, chained doors, windows filmed over with dust and age. It was easier to believe the brothers had gone somewhere else than to imagine they'd gone nowhere at all. After 2 weeks, the search slowed. After 3, it thinned. A month in, people stopped asking how the Holloways were doing and started saying if they came back. Their mother still set out 2 plates at dinner sometimes. Didn't realize she was doing it until she was already standing there, staring down at them. She'd breathe in slowly, steady herself, wipe her hands on a towel that didn't need wiping. Somewhere in the industrial zone, metal shifted with temperature changes. Old pipes groaned. Wind slid through broken vents and carried dust into corners no one had disturbed in years. If anyone had been listening closely, they might have noticed something else too. A faint, irregular sound beneath the silence. But no one was listening anymore. Time doesn't pass evenly when someone is missing. It stretches, then snaps, then stretches again. By week 2, the Holloway brothers had become a routine topic instead of an urgent one. Their faces were still on bulletin boards, but the corners of the paper curled. Rain blurred the ink. People started talking around the story instead of about it. At the diner near the highway, 2 men leaned over their coffee cups. 30 days, one said, lowering his voice. Yeah, if they were going to be found, they'd be found by now. No one meant harm. That's what made it worse. Investigators followed the obvious paths: mountains, trails, riverbanks. Anywhere Colorado history had taught them to look. Drones buzzed over pine and rock. Dogs sniffed mud and snow, then circled back confused. Nothing stuck. The industrial zone stayed off the map, not officially. Just psychologically. It wasn't wilderness. It wasn't dramatic. It was rust and concrete and locked doors. Places people avoided without realizing they were doing it. Someone suggested checking the warehouses once. An older volunteer, squinting at a faded map. A younger officer shook his head. Those buildings are sealed, condemned years ago. So were the brothers' chances, the man muttered, unheard. Ethan's tools were found in his locker at work. Lucas's laptop stayed unopened on his desk. Their bank accounts stayed frozen in time, untouched like a held breath. That detail bothered a few people, but not enough to redirect resources. Their mother noticed the way officials spoke now. Softer, slower, like they were preparing her for something without saying it out loud. She started visiting places herself: parking lots, scrapyards, loading bays, gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles went pale. At one point, she stood outside a chain-link fence near the industrial district, staring at a row of warehouses half swallowed by weeds. The wind pushed dust across the pavement in little spirals. She whispered, uneasy. Something about the quiet felt intentional. Inside one of those warehouses, the air was thick and unmoving. Ethan counted breaths the way he counted steps when he was fixing something. 1, 2, 3, just to stay focused. Lucas lay back against a wall, eyes half open, conserving energy, jaw clenched tight enough to ache. They spoke rarely now, not because they had nothing to say, but because talking cost too much. Light came through a crack high above them, shifting slowly as days passed. Dust drifted through it like snow that never landed. The smell was old metal, damp concrete, and something sour that made their throats burn when they breathed too deeply. They had tried everything early on. Yelling, banging, dragging debris toward doors that wouldn't budge. The warehouse had answered with silence. Outside, rumors filled the vacuum. I heard they were squatting. No, someone said they were hiding. Maybe they didn't want to be found. That last one stuck. It gave people permission to stop looking. A private security guard made his rounds near the industrial zone one night, flashlight sweeping lazily across locked gates. He paused when he heard a sound. Faint, uneven. Wind, he told himself. Always wind. He didn't check the door. Inside, Lucas squeezed his eyes shut, fighting dizziness. Ethan pressed his palm flat against the concrete, feeling vibrations that never came. Still think someone will come? Lucas asked quietly. Ethan didn't answer right away. He adjusted his sleeve, wiped grime from his face with a shaking hand. They have to, he said finally. Not loud. Not convincing. Just necessary. Days blurred. Then weeks. Hunger sharpened thoughts until they cut both ways. Memories got clearer. Hope got thinner. They rationed everything. Movement. Words. Anger. Outside, the search was officially scaled back. Inside, the brothers listened to the building breathe. Metal popping with temperature changes. Distant groans as the structure settled. Each sound sparked a flicker of attention, then faded into disappointment. And then, something changed. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Just a sound that didn't belong. Footsteps. Muted. Careless. Human. Ethan's eyes snapped open. Lucas pushed himself upright, heart hammering hard enough to hurt. They didn't scream. They waited. Because after a month of being ignored, hope had learned to move slowly too. The footsteps didn't rush. That was the strange part. They moved with the casual rhythm of someone doing a routine check. Not searching, not expecting anything. Just another pass through a place written off years ago. Ethan held his breath. Lucas pressed his lips together, every muscle locked, afraid even blinking might waste the moment. The sound drifted closer, then stopped. For a few seconds, nothing happened. No voices, no flashlight beams slicing through the dark, just the low hum of the building settling around them, like it had done for weeks. Then came the click of a radio, static, a cough. A human sound so ordinary, it almost didn't register as real. Ethan forced air into his lungs and struck the metal beside him with what little strength he had left. The noise rang out dull and uneven, swallowed quickly by concrete and distance. Outside, the security guard frowned. "Huh," he muttered, angling his flashlight toward a sealed service door he'd passed 100 times. He knocked once, half-hearted, expecting nothing. The knock came back, not strong, not clear, but intentional. His posture changed immediately. Within minutes, then what felt like hours, chains were cut, locks forced, doors peeled open inch by stubborn inch. Cold air rushed in, sharp and clean, stinging skin that had grown used to stillness. Light spilled across the floor, revealing 2 figures huddled near the wall. Thinner, dirt-streaked, eyes squinting like they'd forgotten what brightness felt like. Lucas laughed first, a broken, breathless sound that startled everyone, including himself. Ethan tried to stand and didn't quite make it, knees folding before hands caught him. Paramedics spoke calmly, efficiently. Blankets wrapped around shoulders. Water offered in careful sips. Hands checked pulses, pupils, fingers. Someone said, "You're safe now." And the words hung there, fragile but real. News spread fast. Found alive. 30 days missing. Inside an abandoned warehouse, people reacted with awe, then discomfort. How did no one hear them? Why wasn't that place checked? Who sealed the doors? Officials cited miscommunication, jurisdiction overlap, old property records. No one person to blame. No one clear answer. At the hospital, the brothers spoke little. They didn't need to. Their survival didn't feel heroic. It felt accidental, a byproduct of stubbornness and luck, and being overlooked long enough to almost disappear. Their mother cried quietly at the bedside, fingers tracing Ethan's knuckles like she was counting proof. Lucas stared at the ceiling, blinking slowly, absorbing the idea of a future again. The warehouses were inspected after that. Every one of them. Nothing unusual was found. That, somehow, made it worse, because it meant the Holloways hadn't been trapped by mystery or malice, just by neglect. By the way certain places fall out of human awareness. By how easy it is to assume no one could be there. Life moved on, the way it always does. But every time someone passes that stretch of Colorado, the rusted buildings, the locked doors, the quiet spaces between usefulness and abandonment, there's a pause. A second look. Because now they know. Sometimes people don't vanish into the wild. Sometimes they vanish into places we've already decided don't matter anymore. If you want to know how they survived, and why no one searched the place they were trapped, subscribe now. Some disappearances aren't about being lost. They're about being overlooked.